Hello and welcome back to my studio. It's Lois here from Lois and Morgana Davidson Art, and today I'd like to share with you this quick and easy ink sketch of a hawthorn tree contorted and bent by the wind. It's a really simple sketch. It takes less than 5 minutes, using quite an interesting method that of course you can use for all kinds of different subject matter. Today I'm going to be using Indian ink, and I've got a dip pen that's made of glass that I found on eBay. If you don't have a glass pen, it doesn't matter. Any dip pen will do, or even just a sharpened stick that you can dip into the ink. And of course a water spray and your sketchbook or the back of an old painting. I used a photograph that I found on Pixabay. I'll try to remember to leave the link to the photograph in the description below, and you can see how beautiful this black and white photograph is. And these windswept hawthorn trees that you often see in really rugged, barren areas have such a distinctive tangle of branches and are usually contorted by the wind that blows across their rugged environment. So here's the back of my old painting, and I've got it taped to my board, and my board's at an angle, about 20-30 degrees, and I'm dipping my glass pen into the ink. The glass pen is really nice because it's shaped in a sort of a spiral at the nib, and so when you dip it into the ink kind of travels around the spirals, and so the pen itself holds quite a lot of ink, and you can get a nice long line from each dip. I'm looking at the photograph. I'm not trying to copy it exactly, but just trying to create the same sort of impression and the same atmosphere and the same sort of bend and lean and tangle of branches as in the photograph, but I'm going to keep a slightly more delicate touch. I can go over and make some of the lines a lot stronger in some places and keep them much finer in others. Just going over the thicker lines or thicker branches with my small calligraphy brush. Any small brush will do. This is just a generic brush I found a few years ago on eBay, but any brush with a small point will do. But make sure that you dip it straight into water and then wash it out at the end of your painting, because Indian ink will set in the brush and ruin it. So maybe keep a little extra glass aside to keep your brush in. Back to the ink pen. You can see I'm just trying to be really expressive with my marks and my lines, just letting them overlap and tangle. But keeping that lovely lean for the windswept effect. I'm taking my water spray. Now this is a hairdresser's misting spray. When you press it, it releases a continuous mist. Again, I found this on eBay. You can find them on Amazon. And you can see where I've just lightly misted the wet ink. It's spreading out beautifully. I only did a very light spray because I don't want too much, and then going into where the ink is all sort of softly diffusing and continuing to bring out branches from those areas too. And because I started to put in some ground below the trees with the thick ink, where I've sprayed that's starting to run beautifully because my board is on a slope, and that helps with this wet in wet process. So back to the small calligraphy brush, and then just pulling out that ground plane a little bit further from that wet in wet area, and you can see how different it looks where that's hitting the dry paper. And just a little burst with the water spray again, taking care not to overdo it. And because my board's at an angle, the water is running down the page and giving me these lovely, beautifully softly diffused effects. I've laid my board flat now that the diffusions are where I want them to be, and I really like the way the ground plane looks and that little bit of softness in the tree branches. So I can go back in and using my glass pen, bring out some more branches working into the wet areas and the dry areas, which will give me a different result each time. If I work into the wet areas, the ink will softly diffuse. Into the dry areas, and the ink will stay where I put it. So I'm nearly done, but I'm going to bring a few more branches out into the dry areas around the tree, just filling them out a bit more. And here's the finished painting. I think it's really wonderful that such a simple technique can produce such an effective result. I think the trick here is to practice this a few times, and the most important thing is to make sure that you don't use too much water spray. If you use too much water spray, you'll find that all of your line work will disappear into sort of a little cloud of wet in wet ink, and so you'll lose definition. The trick is to balance the amount of diffusions you get with the nice crisp line work for the branches. And it's the same with the ground plane. A nice rich dense line of ink will produce quite a good flow of paint down the page, but a few nice sort of wispy grasses and things that kind of grow upwards as well. So while it might take a bit of practice, I think it's a technique that's worth experimenting with and trying a few times and just finding out how best it works for you. And of course you could try it with different coloured inks. You could try it with different types of trees, different subject matter, even maybe with some sort of loose flower painting. As with everything that I demonstrate here on the channel, it's not just for the demonstration. I'm hoping that you'll see that these are transferable skills, and also hopefully things that will inspire you to go off in your own explorations and in your own sort of directions and make new discoveries for yourself. And that's a really important part of your creative journey, is to have kind of the confidence to experiment and to play, but to push the ideas that you see online a little bit further, and that's where you start to break new ground for yourself. So I hope you like this demo, and I hope you found it useful. If you're interested in other quick and easy demos, there is a quick and easy playlist here on the channel that you may find interesting. So please leave us a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. It's free to do, and it really helps us with our reach with the YouTube algorithm. And a huge thank you to all our wonderful supporters on Patreon. I'll see you again soon. Take care and happy painting. Bye.